Okay, when we last left off, why I think the San Francisco Secret's cast location has been found. I'm Matthew Sparks, and this is just totally my opinion. Your mileage may vary. First, though, let's talk about the elephant in the room, the Fairmont clue. I can hear it already. Objection, hearsay. Well, a couple things about that. This is why I think the location has been found, not why you think it hasn't. Two, I trust the original source of this statement. Three, the source has every right to want to remain anonymous. There are some real nuts out there in secret land. John Michaels relayed this conversation moments after it occurred. And while public since 2019, nobody ever has tried to deny it or retract it. If you don't think this clue is important, you probably are missing the context. So let's talk about the context. In 2019, people have been actively digging for the San Francisco cast for over 2 decades. They dug in Golden Gate Park, Coit Tower, along the shoreline, Land's End, Legion of Honor, Cliff House, Sutro Baths, China Beach, Fort Point, Twin Peaks, parks all over. Well, hell, let's be honest. San Francisco had quite a few holes in it. It was actually well known where everyone was digging. There were podcasts, there were videos, there were TV shows. Then along came Gerald Gay. And we all know the Gerald Gay story. I'm not going to go into that. But when John Michaels was trying to verify the find, the conversation went something like, "It looks like someone dug up the San Francisco cask. Oh, they must have found the Fairmont clue." Not, "Oh, you guys must have just missed it by that much." Not, "Oh, that will make Parks and Rec happy." Not, "Wasn't the Golden Gate Park maps sneaky?" Or, "Oh, you must have found the Coit Tower map." No, what was said was, "Oh, they must have found the Fairmont clue." What Fairmont clue? There was silence, and then they hung up. So now, the context. To find the cask, you must have found the Fairmont clue. Not something that helps, something that was required. So, is this the Fairmont clue? Honestly, we don't know. I think probably. But look at Chicago, Cleveland, and Boston. None of them were completely solved before the casts were found. Clues along the way are not actually required. And since it must be a have to have clue to find the cask, it cannot be a starting clue or a clue along the way. Which brings us to one day in August of 2021. George Ward called me and said, "Hey, can you get over to the Fairmont?" Now, I had looked over the Fairmont after 2019 a lot. John Michaels and I had gone over it carefully and basically found some maybes, but nothing that stood out. So before we look for clues, let's look at a few other things we absolutely know. The Japanese clues. But since I don't read Japanese here. So the keywords: sweet, high posts, education and justice, sounds from the sky, ace, twain, giant pole. Look at line 2. I think the important part of the line is the air can be sweet without tasting sweet. It can smell sweet. And let's also note in line 4 that high posts are made of wood. I also noticed that line 8, line 12, line 13, no, excuse me, line 8 and line 13, he didn't give us a clue for those. So George says, go to the door on the side of the Fairmont. I know what he's pointing at. I go there. Been there, done that. Yes, it has a stone wall. So what? Lots of places have stone walls around here. He said, step out onto the sidewalk, turn around and look up. See those windows on the left? Back then, there used to be a candy store up there. The secret corner. They sold candy, cakes, ice cream, dessert, but more importantly, like other places do, they exhausted their cooking smells through a vent, which was right above the stone wall's door. Turns out that area was famous for smelling good. Then George said, turn around, look just down the hill. And not far away, to be exact, 260 feet, are 3 high posts that are wooden. And then he said, look right below them. Okay, at this point, I knew I was standing near the cast spot. So jump back to the Japanese clues. Sounds from the sky. You need a machine to help you hear the sounds. There are sounds that are not registered by human ears and cannot be heard without a special machine. Maybe something like this. Looking right across the street from Stanford Court, you see nothing. But using the Wayback Machine of vintage postcards, poof. KSFO, the sounds of San Francisco. Okay, George, I'm sold. What's Twain's attention and what's Ace's high? And his answer was, we don't know yet. But dang, this is huge. So at that point, years actually go by. We are checking, we are digging, we are probing, we're using GPR, researching. We find a 1955 travelogue with a view of the intersection. Well, that's kind of obvious. The trouble is, we found out by the time the casts were buried, these signs and this company were long gone. And so that was an absolute dead end, not possible. But after a bunch more research and communication with people at the Fairmont, we found out there was an Ace right there. Ace Parking ran the Fairmont garage at the time the cask was hidden. And of course, these are not the signs they used back then. So back to the vintage postcard Wayback Machine, and we can see the sign that was there in the 80s. We know it said Ace Parking. We just can't read it from this postcard. The best we could find was another travelogue video from the early 1980s. And if you project that video on a big screen, I mean, like really big, you can make out the letters A, C, and maybe an E. I highlighted him in the image on the right, just so you can see what I'm talking about. So now we have Aces High. So look at that intersection right there. This is the Powell Street cable car running north. And this is the California Street cable car crossing the north tracks running west. So let's stand right here where they cross and look for our next clue. If only there was some obvious object of Twain's attention around here. Oh, wait. That looks like Angel Island, where Mark Twain hid from the law, camping out for 2 weeks while helping his friend avoid a murder trial. If this were target practice, I would say we're doing okay. We just need a giant pole. Let's check out that picture again. Do you see it? Look up. Yep, giant pole. Okay, now, this is where I've heard some people go, oh, the Fairmont is where you start. You need to go on down the hill to this park or Hyde Street or turn on Lombard or head over to. Well, the trouble with all of that is at this point, you've run out of verse. We are here. There's no place else to go. So we're looking for a giant step. And there, just below the giant pole, just past the A sign, which isn't there anymore, and in clear view of an object of Twain's attention, is a planter. But how can we find the exact spot in the planter? Oh yeah, the squares on the cuffs. If you use the squares on the cuffs to match the squares on the wall, it points us to a pretty obvious spot. The only trouble is no casque. We do know that in the 90s, there were several years when San Francisco got over 30 inches of rain. These planters were problematic and flooded the garage several times. To deal with this, they emptied them and then resealed them before putting the dirt back. Maybe somewhere there's a construction worker with the casque on his mantelpiece who has no idea what it is, but he kept it because it was neat. I would like to think so, but who knows? So, if you go to San Francisco, stop by the Fairmont, look around. Please don't dig any of the Fairmont planters or properties. They will not be happy with you. But there are other places you can look if you want to. Just get permission first. And while you're there, you will start to see things fall into place. Everywhere you look, there's something. You see more and more and more. Things just fit together. Anyway, this is why I think we found the exact spot. I have lots more details and pictures and reasons, but this succinctly nails it down for me. As I've said, your mileage may vary. I did have one person say to me, this theory can't be right because you completely ignore the moons in the image. There are no moons near the Fairmont. I said, you're right. There's probably nothing resembling a sphere anywhere around the Fairmont. If only we had some sort of Wayback Machine, then we could know for sure. Thanks for watching.